You are trapped, but not by them, by you. Brick by brick, you've built a prison without realizing it. Every time you swallowed your words to avoid upsetting someone. Every time you smiled when you wanted to scream. Every time you shaped your actions not from desire, but from fear of what others might think. You have been laying down walls in silence. Walls made of approval-seeking, people-pleasing, and the quiet desperation to be liked. And now, you can barely see the light. You feel the weight in your chest, and you call it stress, or maybe anxiety, but it's neither. It is the suffocating heaviness of living a life designed for spectators, an audience that never bought a ticket, yet still dictates the show. You act for them, adjust for them, sacrifice for them, and in the process, you've traded away your authenticity for applause that fades as quickly as it comes. The cruelest part? No one asked you to do this. No one forced you to give up your freedom, your essence, your truth. You handed it over willingly because somewhere along the way you believed the lie that being accepted was worth being hollow. And now here you are. The play continues, the crowd watches, and you are wondering if the real you still exists at all. They told you that control was the key, that if you could master every detail, anticipate every problem, and eliminate every uncertainty, life would finally go your way. And so, you began the endless task, polishing every corner of your existence. You measured your words, calculated your tone, adjusted your posture. You designed a life that looked perfect from the outside, even if it felt empty on the inside. You convinced yourself that perfection was safety, that if you could just keep everything in order, you would finally be untouchable, immune to failure, beyond criticism. And so, you built routines. You built strategies. You built 1,000 invisible systems to manage every second of your day. But here's the problem no one warns you about. Control is a prison disguised as protection. The more you try to grip life with both hands, the more it slips through your fingers. It's like holding water. You squeeze harder, and there is less, and less to hold on to. You think you're building stability, but you're actually building tension, and that tension is slowly strangling the joy out of your days. You wake up thinking about the day ahead, not with excitement, but with a silent calculation of all the ways it could go wrong, and how you'll fix it before it even happens. You plan conversations in your head before they occur. You rehearse your smile for meetings you don't even want to attend. You create contingency plans for problems that may never exist. And all the while, life itself is happening without you. This is the great irony. You are always preparing for a life you never truly live. You tell yourself, once everything is in place, then I'll relax. Then I'll enjoy it. But that moment never arrives, because there is always something else to manage, always another variable to control. You're waiting for the perfect day, but you've forgotten that perfection is a mirage. It recedes the closer you think you get, and yet, you keep tightening your grip. You hold the rope of control as if letting go would mean falling into chaos. But have you noticed? The rope isn't pulling you to safety, it's burning your hands. You've mistaken the pain for progress. You've mistaken exhaustion for discipline. And so, you live on edge, balancing between the illusion of order and the reality of constant fear. Because deep down, you know the truth. The world doesn't obey your plans. Life will not bend to your demands. No matter how tightly you hold on, it moves in its own way, in its own time. And maybe that's why you're tired. Not because life is too heavy, but because you're trying to carry it in a way it was never meant to be carried. So I'll ask you again, who would you be if you stopped worrying about how you're perceived? Who would you be if approval no longer mattered? Would you even recognize yourself? Or would you, for the first time, finally meet yourself? Michel de Montaigne understood something about human nature that most of us still refuse to face. In the 16th century, When the world outside his door was full of political chaos, disease, and endless chatter, he made a decision that startled everyone. He walked away, not in defeat, not in bitterness, but with a deliberate calm. He climbed into a tower on his estate and surrounded himself with his books, his thoughts, and silence. From that tower window, he could see the world moving without him, merchants bargaining in the market, soldiers marching to someone else's war, neighbors gossiping about people they barely knew. He saw the constant rush, the obsession with status, the scramble for approval, and it became clear to him. Most people are not trapped by their circumstances. They are trapped by their own need to belong to a crowd that doesn't even notice them. He saw the truth that we keep running from, that the chains we complain about are often the ones we fastened ourselves. Not iron shackles, but softer, quieter ones. The fear of judgment, the desire to be liked, the compulsion to be seen as successful. And the worst part? We carry these chains proudly, mistaking them for proof of our discipline, our ambition, our worth. From his quiet tower, Montaigne realized that the obsession with control is not a sign of strength. It is a symptom of fear. We cling to the idea that if we just manage every detail, if we prepare for every outcome, we can avoid pain. But what really happens is the opposite. We multiply our pain by living it over and over in our minds before it even arrives. He compared it to holding a rope during a storm. You believe that if you just keep your grip, the wind can't carry you away. But your hands are burning, your muscles are shaking, and still you hold on. Because letting go feels like surrender. You don't see that the rope is tied to nothing. It isn't anchoring you. It's only cutting into your skin. This is the paradox Montaigne understood. The rope you think is saving you is the very thing that's hurting you. Your control is an illusion. You do not control the weather. You do not control the ocean. You do not control the thoughts in someone else's head. And yet, you spend your life trying, sacrificing your peace for a fantasy of certainty. And so he practiced something radical for his time, and maybe even more radical for ours. He practiced detachment, not the cold detachment of indifference, but the warm, clear detachment of someone who has nothing to prove. He let go of the rope. He let the wind move him. He allowed life to be unpredictable and refused to measure himself by how well he could force it into order. And here's the part that might frighten you, because it frightened him, too. When you finally loosen your grip, there will be a moment when you feel lost. That's because for years, you've mistaken the rope for your identity. Without it, who are you? Without the constant worrying, without the need for applause, without your perfectly curated image, what's left? Montaigne's answer was as unsettling as it was freeing. What's left is the truth. What's left is what you actually are, stripped of the borrowed voices and the masks you wore for survival. That's the gift he found in his tower, the ability to see himself clearly, without the distortion of other people's expectations. And from that clarity, a different kind of life began. There is a reason you resist letting go. It's not just about the rope in your hands, not just about the fantasy of control. It's deeper than that, more intimate. The truth is, you are afraid of what you might discover in the silence. For years, maybe decades, you've lived as a version of yourself that was shaped, polished, and adjusted for other people's comfort. You became the dependable one, the agreeable one, the one who always has it together. You built a reputation for stability, and it became your armor. People liked you for it, respected you for it. Some even envied you for it. But here's the dangerous part. After so many years, you started to believe that the armor was your skin. You started to believe that the character you play is who you are. And now, the thought of removing it, of stepping out from behind the role, feels like standing naked in a storm. Vulnerable, exposed, alone. You fear that if you peel away the layers, there will be nothing left underneath. No identity, no direction, just a hollow space where you used to be. And so, you cling. You cling to routines that no longer nourish you. You cling to relationships that fit the mask, but not your soul. You cling to a life that's too small for you, but at least it's familiar. Montaigne understood that fear better than most. He saw that the chains we carry are not only habits, they are self-definitions. We tell ourselves, this is just who I am. This is how life works for me. And even when that identity feels suffocating, it's still safer than the blank canvas of the unknown, because the unknown is vast. It's unmarked. It has no map, no guide, no guarantee. And that terrifies us. We'd rather be half alive in a predictable prison than risk full aliveness in uncharted territory. But here's the quiet paradox. The void you're so afraid of isn't empty, it's space. Untouched, unclaimed space that belongs to you. It's the ground that only appears once the false foundations have been swept away. And inside that space is the part of you that you've never met. The you that has no need for approval, no craving for applause, no compulsion to fit into anyone's picture of success. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff. Behind you lies the land you've known all your life. It's safe, predictable, controlled. In front of you stretches nothing but sky, an endless drop into something you can't see. The wind is strong. Your pulse is sharp. Everything in you wants to turn back to the safety of the known. But there's another feeling too, one you can't quite name. It's small at first, but it grows with every heartbeat. It's not fear. It's not panic. It's possibility. That is the moment Montaigne spoke of. The moment you see that the only way to find yourself is to risk losing the self you've been. And yes, it is terrifying. It will shake you. But the only thing more terrifying than that leap is spending the rest of your life staring at the sky and wondering what could have been. We are told from the time we are children exactly what success is supposed to look like. The picture is handed to us before we even know how to question it. We're told, get the right education, the right job, the right relationship, live in a respectable neighborhood, drive something impressive, be admired, envied, remembered. We are given the steps in the form of a ladder, and we start climbing before we've even looked up to see where it leads. It feels natural because everyone around us is doing the same. No one asks why the ladder is there. No one stops to wonder who built it. It's simply there, and climbing it is what good people do. And so we climb. Through our teens, through our 20s, through the first half of our lives. We hit the milestones we were told to aim for. The job title, the partner, the possessions. We post the pictures, smile at the right moments, say the right words. And maybe, for a while, it feels like we're winning. But then something begins to stir, quietly, at first. Maybe it's late at night when the house is silent. Maybe it's during a celebration that doesn't feel quite as joyful as it should. Maybe it's while looking at the face in the mirror and realizing that you've been playing the part so long that you don't remember auditioning for it. The whisper starts. What if I've been climbing the wrong ladder? What if the top isn't where I want to be? Montaigne understood this long before most of us had the courage to admit it. He saw that what we call success is often nothing more than an imitation, a reflection of what the world told us to want. We borrow dreams without realizing it. We mistake other people's blueprints for our own. And then we spend years building a life that, at its core, doesn't belong to us. You can follow the formula perfectly, study the right things, get the right job, surround yourself with the right people. You can reach every goal your culture hands you. And yet, lying in bed in the darkness, you can feel it. The hollow ache of having achieved everything except yourself. And here's the part we rarely say out loud. If you have to pretend to maintain what you've achieved, then it was never really yours. If your success demands a version of you that feels small, strained, or false, then all you've built is a mask, and masks are heavy to wear. True success, Montaigne would say, is alignment. Not alignment with the timelines and titles the world offers, but with the deep, often hidden truth of who you are. Alignment is waking up in the morning and feeling no distance between yourself and your life. It's having a career, a relationship, a day-to-day existence that doesn't require performance. It's not about applause, it's about integrity. But this kind of success is not cheap. It may cost you ladders you've been climbing for decades. It may cost you recognition from people whose approval you've craved for years. It may cost you the image of yourself you've spent half a lifetime polishing. And that's why so few people choose it, because in the beginning, it feels like loss. The paradox is this: the life you actually want may require you to dismantle the life that convinces everyone else you've made it. It might mean trading certainty for truth, trading stability for freedom. And only you can decide whether that exchange is worth it. Because here's what no one tells you. When you stand at that crossroads, the question isn't really about success. It's about ownership. Whose life are you living? Whose dream are you climbing toward? And how long are you willing to keep living someone else's definition before you finally turn toward your own? Comfort is one of the most seductive traps you will ever face. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It doesn't even hurt, at least not at first. Comfort whispers to you. It tells you to stay where you are because you know this place. It tells you to keep doing what you've been doing because it's familiar, predictable, safe. And so, little by little, you begin to choose the familiar over the unknown. You wake up in the same room, drive the same roads, talk to the same people, have the same conversations. There's nothing wrong, exactly, but there's nothing alive in it either. The days start to blur into each other, and the weeks pass like pages in a book you've already read too many times. Montaigne saw this as one of the greatest dangers of the human spirit. Not pain, not struggle, but the quiet anesthesia of routine. He understood that comfort can become a form of captivity, a velvet prison where the bars are invisible because they feel soft against your skin. The danger of comfort is not that it kills you. It's that it keeps you alive, but only halfway. You function, you maintain, you meet expectations. But deep down, something is eroding. Your curiosity, your courage, your capacity to take risks. Comfort shrinks your life in small, almost unnoticeable ways, until one day you realize the walls have closed in. And here's the truth we try to ignore. Comfort demands a price, and the cost is your freedom. Because freedom, real freedom, is messy. It comes with uncertainty. It comes with discomfort. It comes with moments where you feel completely exposed. That's why most people trade it away for the calm, controlled environment of the known. But ask yourself, if you have to hide parts of yourself to preserve your comfort, is it really comfort at all? If you're always bending, always pretending, always holding back to avoid disruption, then maybe what you call peace is just fear wearing a softer name. The paradox is this: the things that are truly worth having, love, purpose, authenticity, rarely grow in the soil of comfort. They require the storms. They require the risk of disappointment, the possibility of failure, the moments where your hands shake before you speak. Montaigne would say that comfort isn't the enemy, but it is a false god. If you worship it, it will demand that you sacrifice the very parts of you that make life worth living. And the saddest part? Most people will never notice the trade they've made, because comfort doesn't take everything all at once. It takes you piece by piece, until there's nothing left but the version of you that's easiest for the world to keep around. So here's the question. Are you willing to trade a little comfort for the chance to be fully alive? Or will you stay where it's warm, safe, and predictable, knowing that safety was bought with the currency of your own freedom? Most people misunderstand detachment. They hear the word and imagine coldness, someone shutting themselves off from the world, refusing to feel, refusing to care. They think it's withdrawal, a kind of quiet escape from life. But detachment is not escape. Detachment is freedom. It is not about turning your back on the things you love. It's about facing them without fear. It's about being able to say, I will care for you deeply, but I will not chain you to me. True detachment is the opposite of indifference. Indifference says, you don't matter. Detachment says, you matter so much, I refuse to control you. Montaigne understood this long before our modern world gave us so many more things to cling to. He saw how possessions, relationships, and even ideas could take possession of us when we hold them from a place of anxiety. A man doesn't own his wealth if he can't sleep for fear of losing it. A woman doesn't own her reputation if she's afraid to speak her truth in case it changes how others see her. In both cases, it is not they who hold these things, it is those things that hold them. Detachment is the art of opening your hand. It's the difference between holding a bird in an open palm and clutching it in a fist. In your palm, the bird can breathe, can move, can stay by choice. In your fist, it cannot escape, but it also cannot live. One form is rooted in trust, the other in fear. This is why detachment is so hard for us, because it requires trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the flow of life, trust that what is meant to remain will remain without your constant grip. And trust does not come easily to a mind trained to control. You might ask, but if I let go, won't I lose what I love? And Montaigne's answer would be, if letting go makes it vanish, then it was never truly yours. The things that belong to your soul will survive the loosening of your grip. In fact, they will breathe more easily when you stop strangling them with your need to keep them close. Detachment doesn't strip your life bare, it refines it. What remains after you release the false attachments is what was real all along. The friend who calls because they want to, not because you keep them on a leash of expectation. The work that still excites you when no one is watching. The possessions that still have meaning when they can no longer be displayed for others' approval. And here's the quiet magic. When you practice detachment, you stop living in constant fear of loss. Because you've accepted that everything is temporary, every season, every role, every chapter. That acceptance doesn't make you love less. It makes you love more, because you know the moment is fleeting. You stop clinging, and you start experiencing. Montaigne's warning still holds. Everything you grip through anxiety will eventually grip you back, but everything you hold through freedom will flourish. The choice is yours. Cling and be possessed, or release and be freed. The question becomes, do you trust yourself enough to let go? Can you loosen your fingers and let life breathe in your hands? If you can, you may find that what remains was all you ever needed. Every life is built on a story, not the one we tell others, the one we tell ourselves. It's the quiet, constant narrative running in the background of our thoughts. And like a script handed to an actor, most of us didn't write it. We inherited it from parents, from teachers, from culture, from every voice that ever told us who we were supposed to be. The trouble is, once we've rehearsed that script long enough, it starts to feel like truth. If the story says, you're the cautious one, we stay cautious. If it says, you're not meant for great things, we stop reaching. If it says, love never lasts for you, we stop believing. We live inside these sentences without realizing they're not laws, they're lines someone else wrote. Montaigne understood the power of narrative. He saw that the stories we carry don't just explain our past, they quietly shape our future. Every choice we make is filtered through the plot we believe we're living. If your story is one of limitation, you will make limited choices. If your story is one of fear, you will arrange your life to avoid imagined dangers. The story becomes the map, and we stop exploring anything beyond its borders. But here's the thing about stories. They can be rewritten. Not just edited, not just improved, but rewritten entirely. You can take a character who has always played the victim and give them agency. You can take a plot line of quiet resignation and turn it into one of transformation. You can decide that the setbacks in Chapter 3 were not the end, but the turning point. The hardest part is realizing you are both the main character and the author. That means you have the power to change the narrative, but it also means you have no excuse to keep living one that makes you miserable. Of course, rewriting a story takes courage. It means letting go of the comfort of knowing how the next scene will play out. It means disappointing people who like the old version of you. It means facing the possibility that your new script might lead you into unknown territory. But that's the point. Unknown territory is where growth lives. And here's the beauty. When you change the story inside your head, the world outside begins to change too. Not because reality itself shifts overnight, but because you start showing up differently. You carry yourself like the person in the new story, and people respond to you as if that's who you've always been. Slowly, the old script fades, replaced by a life that feels like your own. Montaigne would say this is not just self-improvement, it's self-liberation. To rewrite your story is to reclaim authorship over your life. To stop being a character, written by someone else's pen, and start writing in your own hand. And the page is always open. Every day, another line. Every choice, another paragraph. Every moment, another chance to change the ending that we spend our lives trying to make the unknown known. We draw maps where there are none. We build plans that stretch years into the future. We imagine outcomes before we take the first step, as if clarity must be guaranteed before courage is allowed. But life doesn't work that way. The truth, the one most of us spend years avoiding, is that uncertainty is the natural state of existence. You do not know what tomorrow will bring. You cannot know, and no amount of planning will ever remove that fact. For some, this feels like chaos. For others, it feels like freedom. The difference is not in the world. It's in the story you tell about it. Montaigne understood that uncertainty is not an enemy to be defeated, but a companion to be embraced. He saw that the unpredictability of life is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. It's what keeps us awake. It's what keeps us humble. It's what keeps us alive. Because if everything were certain, there would be nothing left to explore. Think about the best stories you've ever heard. The ones that stayed with you. The ones you wanted to tell again and again. They weren't compelling because you knew exactly how they would end. They were compelling because you didn't. It was the not knowing that pulled you forward. Life is no different. And yet, most people try to turn their lives into a story without suspense. They want to know the ending before they've lived the middle. They want guarantees before they've taken risks. They want safety without the price of vulnerability. But in doing so, they strip life of its magic. They choose predictability over possibility. The beauty of uncertainty is that it leaves the door open for something better than you imagined. When you stop demanding that life meet your expectations, you make space for it to exceed them. You stop trying to force the plot and start letting it surprise you. And sometimes, those surprises are the very moments you will remember when everything else has faded. This doesn't mean you stop making plans. It means you stop worshiping them. You hold them lightly, knowing they may change. You walk forward with intention, but also with the humility to admit you cannot see the whole path. And when the path bends, you bend with it. Montaigne would say that the point of life is not to master it, but to meet it. To walk into each day as if you are turning the page of a book you love, curious, open, unafraid of what comes next. And maybe, the art of living is not in knowing exactly where you are headed, but in being willing to go anyway. So here you are, at the edge of the story we've been telling together. And if you've stayed with me this long, it means something. And these words has been tugging at you. Maybe you felt the weight of the rope in your hands. Maybe you've recognized the mask you've been wearing. Maybe you've seen yourself climbing a ladder that leads to a summit you never chose. The question now is not whether you see the truth, it's whether you're willing to act on it, because nothing changes until you do. Awareness without action is just another form of comfort. It feels good to realize what's wrong, to imagine something better, but it changes nothing until you step forward, until you loosen your grip, until you stop rehearsing and start living. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Letting go of the rope will make your hands feel empty. Stepping away from the role you've been playing will make you feel exposed. Leaving behind the version of success the world sold you will make you feel unsteady. But those feelings are not signs you're making a mistake. They're signs you're finally alive. Montaigne would remind you, life is not about perfect control or unbroken comfort or a story that makes sense on every page. Life is about meeting yourself in the unknown and daring to stay there long enough to see what grows. So here is my challenge to you. Rewrite your story. Not tomorrow, not someday now. Begin with one act of authenticity. Say the thing you've been holding back. Take the step you've been avoiding. Release the thing you've been gripping for fear of losing it. Do it not because it guarantees a better outcome, but because it guarantees a truer you. And when the fear comes, as it will, remember this: the only thing more terrifying than leaping into the unknown is spending the rest of your life standing at its edge, staring into it, and wondering what could have been. So I will ask you one final time. Will you keep living as a spectator, applauding someone else's life from the safety of your seat? Or will you stand, walk to the stage, and take ownership of the role that was always meant for you? The curtain is open. The page is blank. The rope is in your hands. You know what to do.